So 10th class economics, this is the second chapter with the continuation. So this is the paragraph and the page number 29 of NCERT, where we are starting. Every state or region has potential for increasing the income and employment for people in that area. So every state and region of the country is having potential to increase the income, means to increase the production, and then to raise the employment. Every part of the country is having potential, means you can start anything like tourism. They are just suggesting regional craft industry, new industry, IT, and some other activities can be started in any part of the country, because every part is a very prosperous of the India. Some of these would require proper planning and support from the government. For example, the same study by the Planning Commission says that if tourism as a sector is improved, every year we can give additional employment to more than 35 lakh people. So where nothing can be done, there we can promote food tourism over there. And in many remote areas, like their hilly areas, the production of goods and services is not possible over there. So we can promote tourism over there even. So that is a suggestion by Planning Commission. Now we must realize that some of the suggestions discussed above would take a long time to implement. For the short term, we need some quick measures. Recognizing this, the central government in India made a law implementing the right to work. This is very important law that is implemented with the government and successful to the large extent. In the above 625 district of India, it is called Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act 2005. That is NREGA 2005, MG NREGA 2005. So this is very important. That question can be asked, in which year this act is, has been implemented in India. That is MG NREGA 2005. It is related to which right of the citizen, that is a right to work. So under MG NREGA, what happens that 2005, all those who are able to and are in need of work in rural areas are guaranteed 100 days of employment in a year by the government. So this is the 100 days, although there is a 365 days in a year, but 100 days guarantee employment by the government. If the government fails in its duty to provide employment, it will give unemployment allowance to the people. The type of work that would in future help to increase the production from land will be given preference under the act. So that is many times the people are getting unemployed due to this and that reason in rural areas. So this is a 100 days employment guarantee has been given to the people. If that is not given, then government will pay the compensation, that is known as unemployment allowance to the people if they are not getting work as per their potential. So brief note on MG NREGA can be asked at the question. Now the next page, that is 30th. Division of sector as a organized and unorganized sector. So the work is divided into two sectors, organized and unorganized sector. Let us examine another way of classifying activities in the economy. That this look at the way people are employed. What are their condition of work, and are the any rules and regulations that are followed as regards their employment. So this is very important. Where you are working, their rules and regulations are implemented, which has been made by the government for welfare of the employees. So this is the point where the particular is pointing out. There is a story of Kanta. You have to learn the name and the stories also, and the problem and solution also, because that question can be asked in the paper. Kanta works in office. She attends her office from 9:30 to 5:30 p.m. 9:30 am to 5:30 p.m. She gets her salary regularly at the end of every month. In addition to the salary, she also gets a provident fund as per the rules laid by the government. She also gets medical and other allowance. Kanta does not go to office on Sundays. This is a paid holiday. When she joined, paid holiday means you are not coming to office, you are not working. Even then, you are paying for that day. You are getting salary for whole month. So that is a paid holiday. When she joined work, she was given an appointment letter stating that all the terms and conditions of work. So this is the Kanta terms and condition of doing the work or employment. Now the Kamal. Kamal is Kanta's neighbor and he is a daily wage laborer in a nearby grocery shop. He goes to the shop at 7:30 in the morning and works till 8 p.m. in the evening. He gets no other allowance apart from his wages. He is not paid for the day he does not work, like Sundays. He has therefore no leave or paid holidays, like Kanta was having Sunday as a paid holiday. Nor was he given any formal letter saying that he has been employed in the shop. He can be asked to leave any time by his employer. So this is the terms and condition with the Kamal. Now what is the difference? Kamal is not having proper appointment letter, not having proper days of leave and proper timing. So here the discussion analysis of these both type of workers. There are Kanta works in an organized sector. So it is known as organized sector, where organized sector covers those enterprise or places of work where the terms of employment are regular and therefore means they are not changed. One time they are something else, another time they are something else. So they are not like this. The terms and employment are regular and same for all in the same type of work. Therefore the people have assured work. They are registered by the government and have to follow all the rules and regulations which are given in the various laws, such as the Factories Act, Minimum Wages Act, Payment of Gratuity Act. So all these are the act. Minimum Wages Act means a minimum wages should be given to a particular type of work, and Factories Act regarding the safety of the employees and all the environment of the factory should be safe for everybody who was working over there, who is nearby. Payment of gratuity. Gratuity is basically for the old age of the old age for the old age of the employer. So what all the employees who are working over there, so gratuity is the amount which has been accumulated and that has been given by employer and employer both, and the amount has been collected for the old age of the employee. Shops and Establishment Act, etc. It is called organized because it has some process, some procedure. So the question can be asked over there that which act has been introduced by the government for the proper employment services, for the proper condition of services in the country. So these acts you can write down over there. Now because it has some formal process and procedure, some of these people may not be employed by anyone but may work on their own, but they too have to register themselves with the government and follow the rules and regulations. So you have to register with the government and you have to follow all the rules made by the government. Workers in the organized sector enjoy security of employment. What is security of employment? Security of employment means if they are getting work, they are doing work properly, they are getting proper terms of employment and contract of employment, then they cannot be expelled from their work anytime. If everything is going on smoothly, then it is not possible for the employer to you can say retrench the worker, मतलब निकाल नहीं सकते worker को, remove the worker from the work. So this is the security of employment. They are expected to work only a fixed number of hours. So number of hours are already fixed, that cannot be increased. If they work more, they have to be paid overtime by the employer, and that they also get several other benefits from the employer. Now what are these benefits? Many benefits given by the given in the organized sector by the employer to employee. And what are these benefits? They get paid leave. Paid leave means they are given the holidays, and then they are paid for that. Like 15th August is a paid holiday, 26th January and any other day that is a guested holiday, that can be the paid leave. Sundays are the paid leave. So the question can ask, Sunday is a paid leave, like 15th August is a paid leave, so you will write that definitely that is a paid leave. Payment during holidays. If any holidays comes over there, then the payment should be paid. The payment should be made for that holidays. Provident fund, gratuity. All these are the fund and gratuities are for the old age of the employee. They are supposed to get medical benefit. Under the laws, factory manager has to ensure facilities like drinking water and a safe working environment when they retire. These workers get pension as well. So all these good conditions, you can say congenial condition, proper conditions for the employee. In contrast, Kamal works in an unorganized sector. The unorganized sector is characterized by small and scattered units. which are largely outside the control of the government, because they are not registered, so they are definitely outside the control of the government. They are the rules and they are not following the rules and regulation. So these are the rules and regulation, but there are rules and regulation by the government for everybody, but they are not following. Jobs here are low paid and often not regular. The conditions used to get changed as per the convenience of the employee. There is no provision for overtime, paid leave, holidays, leave due to sickness, etc. Employment is not secure over there. Anytime they can be expelled from their work. People can be asked to leave without any reason when there is a less work. So retrenchments are there, such as during some season, some people may be asked to leave. A lot also depends on the whims of the employer. This sector includes a large number of people who are employed on their own doing small jobs such as selling on the street or doing repair work. And similarly, farmers work on their own and hire laborers as and when they require. So such type of work where this type of unorganization has been going on regarding work. Now, in such type of environment, how to protect the workers in unorganized sector, because they are really the sufferer over there. So this unorganized sector offer jobs that are the most sought after, but the employment opportunities in the organized sector have been expanding very slowly. It is also common to find many organized sector enterprise in the unorganized sector. They adopt such strategies to evade taxes and refuse to follow laws that protect labor. As a result, large number of workers are forced to enter the unorganized sector jobs, which pay a very low salary. They are often exploited, not paid for the fair wage. Their earnings are low and not regular. These jobs are not secure and have no other benefit. So when the people are not getting job in organized sector, because organized sector is growing very slowly, and organized sector is not able to provide employment to all people. So there is in a very populous country like us, the second populous country of the world. So there is an emergence of unorganized sector, which is providing employment but without any benefit and with very harsh condition. Since the 1990s, it is also common to see large number of workers losing their jobs in the organized sector. These workers are forced to take up jobs in the organized sector with low earnings. Hence, besides the need for some work, here there is also a need for protection and support of the workers in the unorganized sector. So that is the common from 1990s. So what is the main feature of 1990s in India? Actually, in 1991 there is a introduction of new economic policy which invites many multinational corporations to India, and they are providing employment to the people, and definitely with the employment, unorganized sector also emerge with that. And you can't say that multinational corporation there is a everything they are following. Definitely they are not following the timings. They are having the work as much as they can get from their employees, and many more problems are there. And when they are doing outsourcing, getting work done from the small units, then in small units definitely there is a very unorganization for the workers. So in which here it is common to see large number of workers losing their job in organized sector. These workers are forced to take up job in unorganized sector with very low earning and with no terms and condition. So definitely in unorganized sector there is a need of protection from the government side. Extra effort should be taken by the government if the unorganized sector is not following the rules, but that is not from the government side till now. Even then many rules have been broken in the unorganized sector. So now the question is, who are these vulnerable people who need protection? In the rural area, the unorganized sector mostly comprise of the landless agricultural laborers, small and marginal farmers, sharecroppers and artisans such as the weavers, blacksmith, carpenter, goldsmith, you can say many other activities which is carried on in the rural area rather than agriculture activity. Nearly 80% of the rural household in India are in the small and marginal farmer category, and these farmers need to be supported through adequate facilities for timely delivery of seeds, agriculture input, credit, storage facilities, and marketing outlets. So definitely 80%, if 80% of the rural area, they are belong to small and marginal farmer category, definitely a very effective scheme must be made by the government to help these people, because they are in need of so much of things like seeds, a timely delivery of many important things, so that they can carry on their economic activities. And now that, as I'm saying that now the this in this year particularly, a scheme has been introduced by the government for the selling of the crops in the market. So that app has been introduced. So there is a very much saying for that app that that crop should be there is no mediocre between the seller and purchaser while selling out the crops by the farmer. So definitely let's see that how it has been implemented in the urban area. Like as in your given your book, in the urban area, unorganized sector comprises mainly of workers in the small scale industry, casual workers in construction, trade and transport, etc. So that question can be asked that in urban area, what type of unorganized work people are getting. They are getting work in small scale industry, like they are casual work in construction and trade and transport. You can write over there. And those who work as a street vendor, head load workers, then garment workers, garment makers, rag pickers, etc. Small scale industry also needs a government support for procuring raw material and marketing of output. The casual worker in both rural and urban areas need to be protected. So the casual worker both in rural and urban area, like in rural area for doing work in agricultural activities for the landlord, and then in urban area a small laborer, casual laborer, that is the rag pickers and many other who are doing a very marginal work and very small work, and they are getting all the condition which is unorganized. They should be protected from the side of the government. But I would like to say that multinational corporation why coming into India, this is one of the reason, because there is a unorganized sector exists. If the unorganized sector not existing over there in India, then definitely it will not attract the multinational corporation to that much extent, because the multinational corporation thinks that their unorganized sector exists. They can use any of the condition which they want to make for getting their work done. So in this way, the government should take a very effective scheme for providing proper employment in an organized sector, or to some extent in the country. Now with the next paragraph, we also find that majority of the workers from scheduled caste, tribes and backward communities find themselves in the unorganized sector, because even now the law has been very strict law has been made for this scheduled caste workers and for this type of minorities people. But even then they are not getting work in the organized sector in proper way. In many areas they are neglected over there. So that is why they have to work in the unorganized sector. Besides getting the irregular and low paid work, these workers also face social discrimination. Protection and support to the unorganized sector workers is thus necessary for economic and social development. So they are, because they are belong to scheduled caste, they are not getting work in the organized way. So that is why they are to work in the unorganized sector, and it is very much necessary for these type of people for economic and social development. Although government is giving so much I can say so much benefit to these people, because in many government jobs and many government colleges, all the government colleges I will say, these backward communities, they are getting a special privilege to get admission and to get jobs over there. But even though they need economic and social development, because definitely there is this sector, basically this particular section, backward communities and all scheduled caste tribes, they had been neglected for so many years, and they were suffering from poverty and many other problems. But even then social discrimination still exists. You cannot say this has been removed fully. Now there is a sectors in the terms of ownership, public and private sector. So another way of classifying economic activities into sectors could be on the basis of who own asset and responsible for the delivery of services in public sector. The government, who owns most of the asset, provides all type of services to the people with very reasonable price. In the private sector, ownership of assets and delivery of services is in the hands of private individual or companies. Railways or post office is an example of the public sector, because there all the assets have been owned by the government, all the decisions taken by the government, and services are provided by the government to the people. Whereas the company like Tata Iron and Steel Company Limited, Reliance Industry are privately owned. These are the Indian companies, and many you can take the example of many are multinational corp McKinsey, like Apple, Vivos. These are the private sector over there. Activities in the private sector are guided by a motivate to earn profit. So the main purpose in the private sector is profit, and the main purpose in the government sector or public sector is the welfare of the people. So that is why there is a proper employment, and definitely with the proper employment they are getting a proper working condition over there, and the motive is welfare. To get such services, we have to pay money to these individual and companies. The purpose of the public sector is not just to earn profit. Government raise money through taxes and other ways to meet expenses on the services rendered by the government. Modern day governments spend on a whole range of activities. What are these activities? Why do government spend on such activities? Let's find out. So many times government spend because government collect taxes and getting the revenue out of that. And the purpose of the all these public sector of government is, I just told you that not the profit, is the welfare. There are several things needed by the society as whole, but which the private sector will not provide at a reasonable cost, because private sector is only after the profit. Why? Some of these need spending large amount of money which is beyond the capacity of private sector, because private sector is not interested in spending, because they are not getting the enough profit out of that, enough benefit out of that, so they are not spending to that extent. Collecting money from thousands of people who use these facility is not easy. Even they do provide these things, they would charge a very high rate of their use. So it is very difficult to collect money from the people. Definitely all type of people are using this, like poor, rich, middle income group, and so that is why it is very difficult to collect money from all these people. And definitely if the money has been collected by the private sector, that will be high rate with very much amount of profit. Examples are construction of roads, bridges, railway, harbors, generating electricity, providing irrigation through dams, etc. Thus, government have to undertake such heavy spending and ensure that these facilities are available for everyone. So, government used to spend a very large amount, like where government has to spend a very large amount, their private sector is not interested. There you can write down railway, harbor, generating electricity, dams, bridges, providing irrigation through dams, and all these you can write over there. These are the basic infrastructure made by the government for the people of the country, and that is very necessary. For that, government definitely used to collect the tax from the people also. So these are some activities which the government has to support. The private sector may not continue with production or business unless government encourage it. So definitely the government has to support, because private sector is not able to support this in this way. Government sector, public sector or government always encourage the private sector to invest in it, and in lieu of that, government providing so much benefit to the private sector, like concession in the taxes and any other. For example, selling electricity at the cost of generation may push up the cost of production of goods in many industries. Many units, especially small scale units, might have to shut down. The government here steps in by producing and supplying the electricity at a rate which these industry can afford. Government has to bear the part of the cost. So many times government is there to help the people to carry on the production activities by providing them concessional rate. That can be done by the government only, because government is for the welfare here, but private sector definitely will not sacrifice anything. They will get their profit in all the ways. Similarly, the government in India buys wheat and rice from the farmer at a fair price, and this it stores in the godowns and sells at a lower price to the consumer through ration shops. So government used to purchase the wheat or any other government used to purchase the produce from the farmers when there is no purchaser for that, and government has their buffer stock by purchasing that from the farmer. A fair price has been given to the farmer, so they have not been exploited. And many nowadays, I just told you, many other app have been introduced for the selling of the crop by the farmer without any involvement of intermediaries. So the whole benefit will be given to the farmer in this case. When there is an intermediaries involved between the seller and purchaser, definitely it will increase the price, and it will give lesser benefit to the manufacturer and the consumer also. So removal of intermediaries definitely make the price reasonable and benefit to the both parties. Now government has to bear some of the cost. In this way the government support both farmers and consumer, because government is purchasing at low price from the farmer, a reasonable price from the farmer, and providing that particular goods or service, goods or crop to the consumer at reasonable rate. So there the government pay the cost for this. There are large number of activities which are the primary responsibility of the government. The government must spend on these, like providing health and education facilities for the one of the example. We have discussed some of these issues in the first chapter also. Running proper school and providing quality education, particularly elementary education, is the duty of the government. Government and India's size of illiterate population is one of the largest in the world. So government is there, and many government schools are there, and many government organizations are there, colleges are there, but that is not sufficient as per the population of the country. This is also the problem. Similarly, we know that every nearly half of India's children are malnourished, and a quarter of them are critically ill. So that is regarding health basically. We have read about the infant mortality rules. The infant mortality rate of the Odisha 45, means 45 deaths out of 1000 of those infants who are below 1 year. Madhya Pradesh 47 is higher than some of the poorest region of the world. So they are they are having the highest mortality rate, and they are definitely it indicates they are the poor region. Why Odisha and Madhya Pradesh considered as poor region? Because of the high infant mortality rate. Government also needs to pay attention to aspects of human development. So many yardsticks have been given for the human development in the country, such as availability of safe drinking water, that is also not very huge in the country. Housing facility for the poor, and the food and nutrition. It is also the duty of the government to take care of all these and poorest and most ignored region of the country through increased spending in such areas. So with the increased population, that is also problem for the government to take care of all this, and that the target has not been you can say achieved by the government in this way, in the case of education, or in the case of you can say better infrastructure. These are good drinking facilities, they comes under the infrastructure. They are the part of the social infrastructure, health, education, social infrastructure, that has to be take care of, that has to be taken care by the government. Summing up the chapter, in this chapter we have looked at the ways of classifying economic activity into some meaningful groups. One way of doing this is to examine whether the activities relate to primary, secondary, tertiary sectors. The data for India for the last 30 years shows that while goods and services produced in the tertiary sector contribute most to the GDP. As we all know that major contribution to GDP is from the tertiary sector, but major employment has been from the primary sector, that is given also. The employment remains in the primary sector. We also see what all can be done for increasing employment opportunities in the country. Another classification is considered whether the people are working in organized or unorganized sector. So this is the first classification was on the basis of the sector primary, secondary, tertiary, and then the next classification is sector on the basis of organized and unorganized sector. Most people are working in unorganized sector, and protection is necessary for them. We also looked at the difference between private and public activities, and why it is important for public activities to focus on certain areas. So this question can come: why public sector activities should be carried on the country, and what is the importance for this for the people of the country? This is a very important question that can come of the 6 marks also. Difference between formal and informal sector can also you can say organized and unorganized sector, or formal and informal sector can come in your question also. So this is the end of the chapter. The fill in the blank has been given over there, that employment in the service sector dash increase to the same extent as production. So the option is hasn't increased to the same extent as production. So employment in service sector is not increased to the same extent as in the production. Has not increased to same extent as production. So here the has not will come. Now next is the workers in the option is given tertiary and agricultural sector do not produce goods. So worker in the tertiary sector do not produce goods, they are providing only services. Most of the worker in the dash sector enjoy job security, definitely organized sector. The option has been given over there. A dash portion of laborer in India are working in the unorganized sector, a larger proportion of laborer. Cotton is a dash product, that is a natural product, and cloth is a definitely manufactured product out of the cotton. The activities in primary, secondary, tertiary sector are they are related to each other, definitely, though it is a interdependent. Now to choose the most appropriate answer. So here the out of these the options are given. The sector are classified into public and private sector on the basis of employment condition, on the nature of the economic activities, ownership of enterprise, number of workers employed in the enterprise. So options are there. So there is a ownership of enterprise, because in the public sector ownership with the government, in the private sector ownership is with the private people. Production of commodity mostly through the natural process is the activity in the dash sector. So here the primary sector will come, because natural processes has been carried on in the primary sector only. GDP is the total value of GDP. The full form of GDP is gross domestic product. So the total value of dash produced during a particular year. So that GDP is the all final goods and services. This is the second option is the better option, all final goods and services. Final goods has been taken, intermediate goods should not be taken, that should be avoided. D part is the in terms of GDP, the state of tertiary sector in 2013-14 is between dash percent. So that is 60 to 70% that we will mention over there. Fine, tertiary sector is providing that much contribution to GDP, 60 to 70%. Now the third part is matching part, that is the unirrigated land. Unirrigated land is to match up with the basically construction of canals by the government. That is some possible measure for this problem. Low price for crops will be solved by providing cooperative and marketing societies, that is B part. Now debt burden that can be solved with the bank to provide credit with low interest for solving this problem. Now the fourth is a no job in all season. So that is provided by this problem has been solved by setting up agro based mills over there, because in off season they can get the employment rather than the agriculture activities. Compelled to sell their grains to the local traders soon after harvest. So that is the procurement of food grains by the government. So government should help out in this case to the farmers. Find out the odd one out and so why. So there are the odd one out. The options are given over there, like tourist guide, dhobi, tailor, porter. These are the activities over there. Person who are doing all these activities. Here the porter is the odd one because it is related to the secondary sector. Now the second is vegetable vendor is odd as it does not require any qualification and he is unskilled. Cobbler is odd as he is not an employee of the organized sector, and the Sahara airline, it belongs to private sector, so it is an odd. So all these cases, the odd one out has been taken out from all these type of services. Now a teacher scholar looked at the working people in the city of Surat and found out the following. So such type of work are over there. Work is over there, and now you have to find out whether it is organized or unorganized. So in offices and factories registered with the government, that is definitely organized sector. Number of people are also given over there. Percentage of working people 15. Own shops, office, clinic in the marketplaces with formal license, that is related to organized sector. And then people working on the street, construction workers, domestic workers, that is unorganized sector, because they are not getting the regular terms and condition of work. Worker in small shops usually not registered with the government, that is also unorganized sector. People working in small shops is also considered as unorganized sector. And so basically, if you are counting up, then in unorganized sector you will get the 70% worker in the unorganized sector. So people working in the unorganized sector, that is 70%, and people working in organized sector, that is 30%, as per the percentage given over there. Now the question is that, do you think the classification of economic activities into primary and secondary and tertiary sector is useful? Explain how. Yes, definitely the classification is very important, because in this way we can find that how many workers are working in a particular sector, and GDP of each sector contribution can be judged, can be calculated, and we can find out the sector is growing or not growing, or whether the decision has been taken by the government for the growth of that sector, which is lagging behind. And their interdependence can also find out and can be used in this way. The seventh question: for each of the sectors that we came across in the chapter, why should one focus on employment and GDP? Could there be other issue which should be examined, discussed? So this is the thing they are then asked that. Basically, for each of the sector mentioned in this particular chapter, focus definitely be on the employment and GDP. Employment and GDP is the solution for many problems. So this is because growth in GDP and full employment are the common goal for all 5-year plan. So this is the main goal, because this is the solution for all the problems also. And the second part is the other issues which are examined over there, that is balanced regional growth, balanced regional development, self-reliance, modernization of technology, removing poverty, and providing all the health and education facilities to all sections of the people, equality of income. All these are also important things which have been discussed in the issue, which has been discussed over there, and issues also of the country. And now the 8th question: make a long list of all kinds of work that you find adult around you doing for a living. In what way you can classify them? Explain your choice. So on any basis you can classify these work, like private and public and private sector. You can count up of many people you can have, like working in multinational corporation, as you can agriculture labor, you can have small farmers, doctor in government hospital, lawyer, washerman, tailor, porter. All these work you can take, and then you have to classify these like primary, secondary, tertiary basis. You can take employment condition, means nature of activity. If you are talking about nature of activity, then you will classify primary, secondary, tertiary. If you are talking about employment condition, then you are to take the basis organized and unorganized sector. And ownership of business unit, you can take public and private sector. Like on these basis you can classify this is also very important question. Fine, don't take it otherwise. You are to, the profession you are to imagine yourself, and then you are to classify as per. How is the tertiary sector different from other sector? Illustrate with a few example. Definitely tertiary sector is contributing so much in GDP. So tertiary sector, because they are contributing so much and they are providing services only, not the goods. So in this way, with the example, you can explain this question. Like banking services you can explain, insurance you can explain, transport you can explain. Fine. Now the 10th question is, what do you understand by the disguised unemployment? So disguised unemployment and explain with the example in urban and rural area. So disguised unemployment, basically they are the people who are visibly employed but actually unemployed. Their situation is known as disguised or hidden unemployment. And in such a situation, more people are engaged, whether in the rural or urban area. In rural area, you can see the people are in the agriculture plot. Nine people are working, where only 5 are required. So all the other 4 they are considered as a disguised unemployment. Example from urban area, we can see in the in the shops or small business, many people of the family have been working over there, but even then they are not getting they are not required. Even then they are working over there, even they are not contributing for the production. If they remove from that particular area, then there is no effect of the production. So this is also considered as the disguised unemployment. Now difference between the open employment and disguised unemployment. So open unemployment, that is a worker is ready to work but he is not getting the work as at the prevailing wage rate. It can occur in any sector, open unemployment. But in disguised unemployment, the worker is working but he is not, but if he is removed, the production will not decrease, and it occurs only mainly in the agriculture sector. Now the 12th question is over there, that is tertiary sector is not playing any significant role in the development of Indian economy. Do you agree? Give reason in support of your answer. That is the tertiary sector. Basically, we are not agree to this particular statement, because tertiary sector is very important nowadays. Tertiary sector, service sector is providing so much contribution, many largest contribution to GDP. So this is very important sector, and that is the largest producing sector in India. That has been replaced with primary sector just now, and more than 50% contribution in GDP has been given by the tertiary sector. That has been, you can mention over there. So you have to write down all these questions for 2 days work up to 12, and rest of the question I will discuss tomorrow. Fine. Or you are to able, if you are able to sort out these questions from your NCERT this chapter, then you will definitely go for it. But up to 12 question is your homework that you have to do.